Is 1:30. I'm going to just check and see if Roger is on the phone.
Yeah, Kevin, I'm here.
Okay.
And you'll run the meeting?
I certainly can.
All right,
so it is 1:30. We'll call the outreach meeting for Wednesday, June 26th to order. And the first item is the minutes.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion.
Second.
You got a battery issue. Grab a new one.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed,
Aye.
same. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Project talking points. Rucky.
Yeah, so this is a request from Chair Sherling that we have a sort of a consistency document on some of the high-level talking points. I think you got this last month as well. One thing I wanted to point out is we've had some discussion about a process to update these and then a process to make it clear what was updated and what is not. So this will be going to the outreach committee and to the board tomorrow. We have a sort of review process we've established, and one of the things we've decided is that if we're just wordsmithing something, which we're trying to keep to a minimum, that won't necessarily show up as a change on here, just because it's not necessarily need to call your attention to it. But you'll see that a number of red lines are made in here to allow, committee members and board members a very quick way to just look through here if they wanted a quick, okay, what's changed from last month? What's a new, it's an easy way to, if you want to take this somewhere with you, have it handy if you talk to constituents or whatever, you can really get to it right away and figure out what the changes are if you want to give a quick update to anybody. You'll obviously see, try to keep those to a minimum as well, but you'll see one section in there, obviously under the Buffalo Red section, that was rewritten entirely yesterday, and so there's a lot of red lines under there. But other than that, it's try to keep it an easy way to update you all on the changes.
Any questions on that?
But I encourage you to use it.
Comment, I really like this. Have these.
Okay, very good. We'll move on to number 3, lands outreach activities. 3A is the Clomar update.
Not a long update. We expect the Clomar's been submitted to FEMA. We expect that to be at the point where we need to make contacts with all the entities in the sort of region. I think there's 33 different government entities that we're required to contact through this process. We have done that in the past when we went through the past Clomar, and with this one we'll do the same thing. As we get into this, we realize there's going to be a lot more coordination needed because we're also talking to these entities about MOUs and a number of other project-related things, so we can't just send them a form letter as we've done in the past. It might be confusing. So some effort going in there, but we also want to use it as a outreach touch point that maybe not ask to come out and meet with all of them, but offer the meeting. And we did that last go around when we had a sort of a region-wide thing, and we actually got some people that responded that we had never talked to before, or never wanted to meet about this before, and we were able to go out and talk with them. We thought it was successful. So hopefully we get a couple each time, and it's a good way to, if anything, check all the boxes that we are trying to reach out to everybody. And then there's a discussion as part of the lands outreach is the Clomar the point in time, sort of that milestone moment where we take a snapshot at what the impacts are. And I think some of that is impacts are, so we need to contact all the landowners again and say, now that the Clomar is approved, here's the Clomar approved model, right? Because the model has always been ever being tweaked. But if that's a good point in time, the one hiccup there is we have some permit conditions that have been worked on, and this Buffalo Red thing probably factors into that. But until we know exactly what that condition is, maybe we need to hold off on those sort of near final impact type letters too, so we know where we're going to go out and buy flowage easement. Exactly. But I think it's a monumental thing to get the Clomar done, and it's a great point, which I think our modelers here, at what point we can sort of not pause the model, but really have a near final one that we can go out and act on.
Right, very good, thank you. Next, we have the Minnesota Association of Watershed Districts Conference and Tour.
So there's an item in your packet here tour flyer and the conference flyer, I guess. I don't know, is anybody planning to go to this that's in the room? We don't have a lot of Minnesota representation here today. This is over in Moorhead, obviously, and they have a conference and tours on Thursday, tomorrow, and Greg and Jason in the back room there, along with Nathan from Fargo, are going to be meeting up with the tour in the afternoon. We're going to miss the board meeting, and they will be out there at the inlet structure as the tour approaches that. We've put some materials together with the Corps that we can use as tour materials. I guess I could have enclosed those as well, but sort of really good information sheets about the construction that's going on. Really, what I wanted to hit on is this is a great opportunity we've never had before. I think on the tour there's supposed to be 120 people, which I assume there's probably a few more at the actual conference, that maybe aren't going on the tour for some reason. But 3 buses full of, the water folks around Minnesota. So it's a really good opportunity to tell our story, talk about the project. And then on Friday, there's a presentation, I think between, what time's it at? It's down here. It's not on this sheet, but I think it starts from 10:30 to noon. There's a couple different presenters, and I'm presenting about the project to their entire conference. And so that'd be a good opportunity to tell our story. We did have some discussions yesterday with administration and our legal counsel that obviously Buffalo Red Watershed this is their association. So we have a little sensitivity there, obviously. So we talked through that, but we're still moving forward with a good opportunity to tell the story. Again, more North Dakota representation in this room other than Commissioner Campbell, but I don't know if anybody from Clay County is planning to go to this, but it might be nice to have somebody there if anybody's interested in joining me on stage at the presentation. I keep making the offer. So it should be, I'm not sure if there's time for question and answer, but obviously it's always an interesting time on the project to talk about it.
Construction visuals.
Yeah, this was a topic that maybe we've had a few more since this agenda was put together. I think we have I wasn't here at the previous meetings, but we've used drone footage to some success in the past with try to maximize it when we go out and do it. It takes an hour or two to go out and get some good drone footage. With construction starting up on the inlet structure after the 4th of July is when they'll probably have equipment out there really doing work. We've tried to use those visuals, legislatively on social media. The forum asked us last week if we had any new construction visuals they could use as part of their stories. I think this committee, Roger, I know talked about it last month, that it really helped make the project real. Just want to let you know that we're having those conversations with staff, trying to figure out what is a good sort of plan as construction ramps up. How do you balance, necessary, unnecessary effort to go out and do those type of things with the need to sort of be transparent about the work that's going on, because most of it's done outside where the major population would drive by. And so we're trying to balance all that. And so we're hoping to come back with a sort of a construction outreach plan at some point to this committee for input, review, approval, whatever the right steps are. But kind of wanted to wrap in so because I talked to Roger this morning, but I think he had asked if we could go out and do that, and we didn't do that between last month and this month. I wanted to bring it up just to let you know why. Is we had some time with the Corps, frankly, and wanted to make sure that we have some ongoing, consistent plan to do that. But have this committee think about what do you want to be able to see when construction's going on? What do you think the public is going to be concerned about?
Well, I think to show progress is a good thing. And, that we're moving forward. I think that's important to keep that visual out there. I know, was it Monday, Jason, I'm looking at Jason and maybe Greg, if you guys were at that meeting, somebody was giving us a report on the amount of water that still has to be pumped out there. Can you?
70 million gallons.
Yeah, so it's pumping water till sometime in July, is that what you said? So for those who couldn't hear, we're looking at a 3-week period of pumping starting right after the 4th of July. Is that, Jason, is that correct? Okay. And that's just to get the water out so that they can start to do the work that they want to do. It's kind of ironic that we're pumping water to work on a flood project. Okay, well, thank you for anything else on that?
Just some perspective, but I think it's been the best part about the downtown flood protection work. It's because it's been the most visual flood protection work that's gone on. Even when both cities are doing flood work along the river, unless you're in that neighborhood, you generally don't see a lot of the work that's gone on. It's hundreds of millions of dollars worth of work. If you're not next to it, you don't realize the work's been done. So that's the number one question we get anyways is, you guys turning any dirt? And it's like, well, we've been turning dirt for a lot of years.
Yes.
And so the downtown made it a little more real. But when we start out on the channel or the core starts up, are people going to notice? I mean, most people don't drive by that all that often. So try to figure out where's the balance on that.
Oh, I look to when the real work starts on the channel and all that stuff. That's probably the closest municipal entity to that is West Fargo. Is there been discussion about preparations for, because I would think that that's going to ramp up some traffic going around there, but unless it's all going to just go.
I guess it's not real yet, until they finally get rolling and there's been no engineering done out there yet, and they do anticipate, the day when they do ramp up and start doing it, there's, obviously, we're gonna be affected positively by construction workers and equipment and, whoever's supplying them with fuel and all that stuff, so, but there's been no discussion yet because it's not happening yet, so.
Right, we can then move into the fmdiversion.com and traffic analytics.
Yeah, so regular analytics sheets in there. We continue to track that and use that as somewhat of our barometer on what's working and what's not. And so there's not always a perfect thing to point out in here, but know that from month to month, these are sort of important numbers so we can track over time. I think there was a little bit of a downturn after the legislative session and until construction season started, and this sort of a bizarre spring we all had here is that it was a long period. So I think it has maybe been a little bit slow, and I think slow news is sometimes positive on a project, and so that's okay with me. Obviously, you'll see in June that we'll have ticked up quite a bit with we have the new Colonel coming this week. We have the Buffalo Red conversations going on, some conferences and tours always make some press, and then obviously when construction starts, we expect it to go back up. Page through there's a bunch of stuff. Sure, if Tammy Jo was here, she would tell me I'm missing something, but.
Any questions on? Okay. All right, our 3 questions video, we have a new one.
We do. Let me get started here.
Star.
Well, the diversion is a very important insurance policy. Without a diversion, should we have a record-setting flood, then of course the damage to the property of this area would be significant. It could be in billions of dollars worth of damage. And the income tax loss would be significant. Consequently, that would affect virtually almost every citizen in the state and the Red River Valley. I was fortunate to come to North Dakota, the Red River Valley, in 1971. That's almost 50 years ago. I've been superintendent of schools in Fargo, starting in '71 for 28 years. And during that time, I have found no other project that is more significant than the diversion in terms of having the potential of helping all people in the complete state, whether living in Crosby or Oaks or Hillsborough. Everybody would benefit with a diversion should we have another record flood. Now, in the past 50 years, we've had about 6 times that the diversion would have been triggered. And those years are within the lifespan of probably a majority of the citizens that are currently living in this area. And so bad flooding is more recent than historical. And that gives you another reason to be cautious, because it's happening more often. And the reason for that is that today a lot of land is now covered by blacktop and concrete and housing and so on and so forth. Swamps have been drained, and so we don't have the retainage that we did 100 years ago. So the same amount of rain now as compared to 100 years ago is more dangerous today, because it creates a more disastrous, damaging effect on property.
Commissioner Bennett was my superintendent all through my schooling until my senior year, and so I think after I graduated, he said, "I've seen it all now," and he also retired.
I'm going to cut out that part where I said Kevin was great.
All right.
Just let you know, we try to do those, maybe not one a month, but a little bit less than that probably. We have Representative Beadle, who was a good advocate for us in Bismarck this last legislative session. We have one coming up with him. I feel like it's, just to remind everybody why we started these, is there's so much history on this project. And as we started getting turnover, or people pass away like Mayor Wallaker, we start to realize that you start to lose so much history. Or Senator Langseth, I guess, on the Minnesota side, who helped start these type of things. It's nice to preserve that, and there's a historical, I think, benefit in that long term too, as we all move on to other things. So.
Yeah, so other business, I do want to mention, Rocky, that this past week, the Morehead City Council and Clay County both did vote and approve the MCC JPA for land acquisitions in Minnesota. So we are anticipating that the kickoff meeting of that board will be in July, and we're hoping that Mr. Shockley and Mr. Dodds and Rocky, probably for you if you want to be there as well, to get that thing going. And then also, as part of our packet here, there is last week there was some action taken by the Buffalo Red River Watershed District, and our board chair did send out a release statement. And Rocky, I'm going to ask if you would read that.
Sure. Apologize, I didn't send it to this committee. I did go out to the board, and so some of you got it, maybe some of you didn't. The Diversion Board Authority released the following statements regarding the decision by the Buffalo Red River Watershed District to deny a permit for the FM Area Diversion Project. The Watershed District voted on June 24th, 2019 to deny a permit for work within the watershed. And there's a quote from Mary. "We are confident that our permit application complied with all the rules of the Watershed District set for itself. We worked with the Watershed District for months on the conditions in order to address their concerns, which make their denial of the permit perplexing," said Cass County Commissioner Mary Shirley. The watershed district's actions appear to conflict with the earlier order by the DNR Commissioner, allowing for reasonable conditions consistent within Minnesota law. So we are conferring with council on the appropriate next steps. One more quote in here from her too, which I think is good, that everybody's aware of. All planned construction on the diversion project for this year is moving forward and is not impacted by the actions by the watershed. The project is still critical to the people of Cass and Clay counties and will get built.
Very good, and I concur with her statements.
I do have another business.
Yes, yeah, go ahead.
Maybe one thing that should have been on here, there's a Water Topics Overview Committee. It's the legislative interim committee for the state of North Dakota. They're meeting August 1st, and we've been asked to present at that. So we'll have another meeting before then, but we'll be right up against it. Working with appropriate folks on what to present on that. Obviously, the financial plan didn't go quite the way we wanted at the last legislative session, and so we've been working on that, or people have been working on that. Started having a conversation after a meeting Monday with the chair, started talking with John Shockley and Martin Nicholson about, okay, what is our message? I always had that 30 to 90 days that's coming up, and so I have an initial meeting with those two guys just to say, how do we transition what they're working to into an updated one page with a pie chart and that sort of thing. How's that message transition now? Because we were even asked by City of Fargo, who's working with Moody's on an update, can we have an updated, one-page informational sheet on the financial plan? And we've sort of taken the position that we're just not updating and we're waiting on those things, but I know people are asking. And so we're probably at the point with that August 1st meeting coming up to start that process.
Okay. Anything else, Rocky?
That's all from me.
Okay. Anything else from any other board member? Yes.
The joint board's going to be, the Cass County Joint Board's going to be meeting tomorrow, and this is our agenda. We have about 45 properties that we're going to be considering for appraisals and buyouts, and it was at least this long 2 weeks ago, and so, our meetings are running close to 4 hours each time, twice a month. So we're moving right along, and hopefully we're going to have this stuff done by the time we're ready to bid this project out.
I hope the people working with you are bringing donuts or something.
There you go. Somebody should do it.
Well, thank you, Jake, for your work on that and your whole district there for the work that they do. And hopefully we can match you on the Minnesota side.
There you go.
Any other comments?
Just
Thank
say
you, Vern.
we do have the new kernel coming tomorrow, and
That's right.
if members want to stay after for a minute, there's a book there that we've put together for Colonel Calkins, with the commander of St. Paul. This will be his last visit tomorrow to Fargo before he retires from the Corps, and there'll be the Colonel Jansen, who's coming up as the new commander, will be here. And so we've put together a little book with a signature page if you want to say something to the Colonel.
Roger, do you have anything else for us?
Kevin, I don't.
Okay, all right. Seeing no other business, we can stand adjourned.